Hello everyone, this is Tim with Paintball Tek. I'm going to show you real quickly how to rebuild a AKA Sidewinder regulator. This is the current generation of Sidewinder regulator. These are the same kind of regs that Boston Paintball used on all of their twister builds. So any of you guys who got our guns, this is how you go about rebuilding them. So, first of all, we're going to go ahead and separate the top cap from the main body here. These just unscrew. Sometimes they can be a little tight from age. Easiest way to do it is to grab both sides with some rubber and a vise or a strap wrench to separate the halves, or if you have a handy dandy thread grabber tool like this one, you can use it to grab the threads on the top. I believe I got this one from Ryan Stanchfield. I believe he still makes them. So that is the top part. It has two O-rings on it. We're going to set that aside. Now we're going to come down to the bottom half of the regulator here. Inside this is your main piston and the Belleville spring stack that sits right here. Easiest way to get this out is take it upside down, whack it on the table a couple times, and your piston with the spring should come out. These Belleville springs do go in a specific order. You can kind of see that they go back to front, so curved, 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 curved. So, easiest way to keep these intact is to just leave them on the piston, set the piston aside for now. We'll get back to that in a second when we replace the O-ring. Now, this top section's empty. There shouldn't be anything left inside. You can see on the side there. And we're going to separate the bottom half from the barrel here. When this part unscrews, inside you're going to find your red reg seat here on the bottom. That's the part that adjusts up and down to regulate the pressure. And then on the top side you're going to find a brass disc, which should just fall right out. And then underneath that brass disc is a O-ring here, which we're going to pull out. Then this is just a chunk of metal. There's no seals on this piece at this point. Normally when you're servicing an AKA rig, this is about as far as you have to go. We're going to go ahead and replace this O-ring here. Just grab the top of the piston, pull this O-ring off, set it aside. And then this O-ring here, that's another one that gets replaced. It has its little housing here in the bottom of the reg. Those two will cause leaks from this bleed off hole on the side of the reg here in this housing. That's the two you're going to want to replace if you have that issue. Now for more complex rebuilds, if you want to go ahead and get into this section, it's a little more difficult. Getting this adjuster out, it's real simple actually. It's just a 532 wrench. You're going to want to screw it inward if the rig was still assembled, and it'll pop out the top. This is basically just a socket cap set screw Loctited to this aluminum threaded section. There are two O-rings here on the bottom, which very rarely need to be replaced. If that screw is very tight, you're going to want to oil them. So just a little drop of oil before it goes back in. This reg seat is captured inside there. There is a lip that sits underneath. So when these are made, this piece is milled with a captured lip, and that seat is pressed in, so it's very hard to get that out to replace it. The easiest thing to do is contact AKA just to get a whole new assembly. So we're going to set that aside. On this bottom section, if you ever have to take one of these apart for, say, anodizing, or if you have a leak somewhere in this housing, these are kind of a pain to get apart because this bottom ring is normally Loctited on. To get this off, if it is Loctited, you're going to grab this thread section in a vise with a couple pieces of wood or soft jaws, something like that, so you're not going to damage the threads. Or whatever your favorite method is to grab something you don't want to damage. And use a torch to heat this section up and unscrew this cap off. For this demonstration, I've already loosened it up, so I can unscrew it very easily. This comes off. And then this collar slides off. If you still have the fitting on there, if the fitting is screwed in too far, that will also prevent this from coming off, so make sure that your fitting is not screwed in too far. This one's already loose, so it will come off very easily. There is your bottom section assembly laid out for you. Now, because we have this all apart, we're going to go ahead and replace all the seals, and I'll tell you what sizes they are. Starting with the top section here. This is a standard 015, so we're going to replace. It can be either a 70 or a 90. This one here is a 017, which we're going to replace with a new one. This one goes off to the side. That's that. In the manual, this one says that it should be a 113 O-ring. However, 113 is a little bit small compared to the one that comes off of this piston. I believe the one that they're using now is a 114, which more easily fits the size by comparison. This is a 113. This is the one that came off of it. This is a 114. So technically, you can use either a 113 or a 114. They should both work because they should both fit inside that housing fine. But I'm going to match up the sizes, and I'm going to put a 114 on here. It's a little bit fatter, sticks over the edges of the piston a little bit better. So it should seal just fine. That's fine. Next, we're going to do the bottom half because we have to assemble this before we assemble everything else. Inside this housing here, there are two captured O-rings. These are 017s. Use a pick to get them out of the little grooves inside here. Got two new seals. Just kind of work them into the grooves with your fingers. There's one on top. Here's one on bottom. Okay. And then this housing is hollow inside. That's where this piece rides in the side. And then you have a 017 here at the base of the threads. So we're going to go ahead and replace that with a new 017. Alright, for reassembly, these go away. This does have a directional way it goes on. So there's a lip right here and a flat bottom here. The lip goes up. So you're going to want to put some oil on the flats of this regulator where those O-rings seal. Slide your swivel on. Screw your cap back down. You can either Loctite it back together or leave it without Loctite. It's up to you. Drop of oil on these number 10s. These very rarely have to be replaced, but so I'm going to leave those alone. And then just push down with your finger while you're turning it counterclockwise, and then should start threading its way down into the housing like that. I like to start where it's about flush to check the pressures. So top section, piston, lower section. Now we just have this section here, which has one O-ring inside. This is a number 8. From the factory, it usually comes with a polyurethane 70 durometer number 8. You can replace it with a Buna 70 number 8. It's fine. Put a little oil on it. And then this brass washer just sits down right on top of it. Now, that brass washer does sit in a groove, so if it's not lined up right, it'll be off to the side and your piston will hit it and damage the regulator. So you want to make sure that that piston's in its seat in the groove in the base there. Put some oil on the number 17, it seals the threaded section, and screw this down, straight down onto that brass washer so that it holds it in place. If you have an inspection light, you can shine your light down the top, make sure that that brass piece isn't obstructing the hole. You can see down to the red reg seat. Then use a Allen key or a pick or a punch or something like that to mount your piston and bevel washers. You're going to put oil on this O-ring. AKA rigs use oil only, do not use grease on them. They recommend, obviously, AKA Extreme Lube, but you can use Outlast or Empire oil, any good high quality synthetic oil, paintball oil. So you're going to use this punch to kind of press that piston down into the housing and seat it. And then the last part is putting some oil on the 17 on their top piece, and then screwing this back together. Then wipe any excess oil or lube from the outside of the reg. And you should be ready to test your pressures and set it up on your marker. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.